Oh, that's so off. What's happening? Huh. What is happening, my good friends? Great to be streaming with you this fine evening. Not at home. I wish I was. I probably shouldn't do this stream um, for two reasons, which we'll get to. One of which is I should stay out of drama. It's one of the rules that I try to live by, and I'm violating it. This will not be a normal political stream. It's going to be more drama oriented. So fair warning to the people that can't stand online drama. You're probably not going to be interested in this at all. The other reason is I could do this video tomorrow, and it would probably be helpful to be able to be at my home office so I have access to a computer as opposed to streaming from my phone. So I could bring up actual posts and show them to you. But given my crazy schedule, when I finally get time off, like now, even though I have to be at a work office, it's a potential to stream, and you never know if I'll be able to stream going forward the rest of the week. So I thought there were some things that I wanted to talk about regarding a streamer that I've interacted with many times named Destiny. And I want to give as fair as an interpretation of looking at the facts that we know from things that I've read or videos that I've heard, etc. I talked about this for maybe 10 minutes yesterday, but I've learned more about it today and think that it's worth diving into. Normally, I don't dive into these drama things because I don't really care about people's personal lives. When it reaches the extent of there are potential crimes being committed or there is immorality beyond what someone might think because of their moral or religious perspectives. For example, I find it to be immoral to cheat on your spouse. That's not the sort of things I'll cover. However, something like sexual assault, that would rise to the level of something that I think would be worth discussing if I found it relevant to either the politics that we were talking about, a particular politician, or if it arose to the level of the people that I interact with. For me, if it was just about Destiny, and that was the only concern, I'm not so sure how much I would cover it, but actually, I'm more interested, or the reason I was listening today is, what about the colleagues of Destiny? And I've interacted with many of them many times, and despite the fact that we are on the opposite end of things politically, I've enjoyed many of those interactions. People that are long-term followers of my channel will know some of my favorite debates that I've had is with Pxie, who is a colleague of Destiny's. They have a show together, and I think Pxie is ultimately a person who is incredibly partisan and has terrible political takes, but he seems like a moral person to me. And so there are conundrums that I have with people in his position, or Dan, who's a co-host, or someone like Erudite, or anyone else who is in a working relationship with Destiny, or maybe the people that aren't necessarily in a business relationship, but they are frequent friends, associates, etc., that do a lot of work together streaming. And so that's what piqued my interest today, as I was doing a lot of stuff where I had the opportunity to listen to a lot of this story through various videos that people had placed up. And so we're going to cover my version of a short version of what happened. I will try my best to talk about what we basically know to be confirmed as true versus what is alleged. I'll try to be as even-handed as possible. And then I'll talk about some questions that I've raised that I don't see anyone else who spent a lot of time covering these sort of things raised. There are all sorts of moral questions that I ask myself all the time. There are people in my life that I really like, or loved ones, particularly extended family or people that were good friends of mine, that have done things that I find quite despicable. And yet sometimes you're willing to overlook those things because of the relationship that you have. And this to me has always been an interesting sort of moral quandary. How do we as individuals make those sorts of decisions? And then there are questions as a streamer. when are you willing to work with someone else? When are you willing to be on a panel with someone else? When are you willing to have a debate with someone else, etc.? Is there a level of immorality that could rise to where you would no longer want to deal with a person? Now, you hear this quite frequently. I'll blame people on the left more, but maybe this occurs on the right as well, where people will talk about not platforming certain things. And I know there has been a lot of allegations that people in my community have made about Destiny for years, ever since I've interacted with Destiny. Full disclosure, I've probably debated against Destiny near a dozen times. I've also talked to him politely a few times, just in a non-debate setting. And on at least one occasion, we were on a panel where we ended up being basically de facto partners because we were agreeing on the subject at hand. Destiny has never done anything untoward to me as far as a personal nature. He rage quit on me the last time we debated and accused me of manipulating AI. Bunch of stuff that's not worth getting into. All of that I consider just sort of business. That's not attacking my family, accusing me of criminal behavior or significant immorality. So I've been in situations like that with other people. I could easily separate someone saying, Rob argues like crap, never talk to him, he's a partisan hack, blah, 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 versus more significant personal attacks. And so I have in fact, I've said quite frequently on my channel, Destiny has helped me out with a few technical issues. Not spectacular, but he's helped me out in the past with a few technical issues behind the scenes. So I do not have an axe to grind as far as I feel that I've been personally intimidated by Destiny, nor am I involved in any sort of business relationship. In fact, I'm blacklisted from his channel. So I really am not in a position where whether being hopeful of continuing an arrangement with him, I'm afraid to criticize him, or that I have anger at him, which makes me more likely to be less charitable to him. But I do have to give full disclosure that I think he said some despicable things, particularly after the assassination of Trump, which I've called out, and I think his politics suck. I really do. So maybe that has an unconscious bias that will help color what my opinions are on this. But the only thing I'll say to that before we jump in is many people in my own audience who want me to dislike Destiny even more criticize that I've been too charitable to him. It's because a lot of, in this space, if you have any sort of notoriety or public face whatsoever, people are going to talk trash on you, and sometimes the things they say won't be true. And so I've tried to judge people based on things that I could personally confirm, either interactions that I've personally had with them or admissions that people have made, things that you can see, as opposed to just allegations. And so perhaps many of the allegations people have said about Destiny are true. I've never really desired to look into them or try to confirm those. I just didn't care it was someone that I enjoyed debating against. So that's my bias and where it's coming from. As someone who is on the right wing, who disagrees with Destiny politically, I understand if you're watching and you are someone who's left-wing, that you're going to say, clearly Rob's a right-winger, he's out to get Destiny. And that could in fact be subconsciously true. I'm not intentionally trying to do that as my motivation, but nonetheless, I would not blame people for coming to that conclusion. So let's give sort of a short version of what happened, and I'll give my time frame of what my takes were as we saw this occurring. Destiny I'd never once commented on Destiny's relationship with his wife. Apparently, and I'm very ill knowledgeable of the lore when it comes to outside this specific situation with these leaked videos, but I'll give to the best of my knowledge what I think has been publicly known. Destiny was in an open relationship. He talked about it quite frequently. Him and his wife ended up separating and it became sort of public. All I knew about that, my only take on that was, I think divorce is probably really difficult. God willing, I'll never get divorced. I'm happily married. And so I'm not going to crap on people, Destiny or his ex-wife. I'm sure it was a difficult time for both of them. And so I really had no comments on that. I wish anyone going through divorce the best. I understand that it could get acrimonious and it could be very difficult. So I'm not going to, I didn't broach that subject, nor did I broach the subject of, well, the fact that they were in an open relationship is what caused that. Out of my wheelhouse, I didn't really care. Now, there were people that were involved in debates with Destiny talking about relationships and things like that. In that scope of things, I understand why people would want to say, oh, you spoke of relationships, but you're having difficulty in yours. Not my cup of tea. Anyways, moving forward from there. There were, a few months ago, sex tapes of Destiny that were released. Unfortunately, I stumbled upon one of those on my X Live feed, which is a whole other conversation of things that just pop up on your feed as you're scrolling, like in public. The two things that aggravate me the most when I'm scrolling through X are, if you're scrolling through and you see like pornography, I don't care if it's a dude or a woman, either way, it's like, I mean, you could be in public sitting on a bus or something, and all of a sudden, there's pornography. You're just scrolling. It's like, oh, I'm checking out politics stuff, wrestling stuff, chess news. I like looking in news about chess. And then all of a sudden, it's pornography. The other thing that I hate even worse than that is the videos you see routinely of particularly the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, soldiers being brutally killed on either side. I despise that. So anyways, I heard rumors that there were these sex tapes of Destiny that were leaked, and one of them involved a homosexual act that Destiny was performing on another person. He was filleting a man, and apparently there was video of it. And I read this and was just like, whatever, I didn't care. To me, it sounded just like BS. And then sure enough, 5 minutes later, as I'm scrolling, bam, there it is on my feed. So I saw about a second and a half of that. Great. And so because I debated Destiny, because there was a little bit of drama in my community with Destiny, because Destiny does have a bigger community, and his community was shitting on me for the last time I debated Destiny, claiming that I overly use AI and stuff. Doesn't matter. It's not really germane to this story. But a lot of people in my community were like, oh, now's your chance to get back at Destiny. What do you think about this? Regardless of what I feel as a Christian about homosexuality or promiscuity, open relationships, I had no desire whatsoever to mock Destiny for that act, and I did not. In fact, my take, maybe you would consider this quite a milquetoast take, was I feel terrible for him because someone leaked intimate videos of his, and that sucks. And I'll stand by that Destiny is still a victim of that. Unless, which I see no evidence of, Destiny instructed someone to make these videos public. He is still a victim of that. He is. And I don't care what you think of Destiny, of his smugness, of cruel things that he said in the past. Imagine yourself for a situation performing sex acts, and then they're made public online to where your children could see them, your parents could see them, brothers, sisters, neighbors. That can't be fun. I assume there's a particular type of person that maybe has a fetish to that, but other than that, I feel terrible. I do. Now, you shouldn't, it's probably not good practice to be filming yourself, particularly with multiple partners. I have a theory that any direct message that you make or anything you do in front of camera or audio will probably eventually be made public. And so you should be careful. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel bad for him in that particular situation. I did. And so I stood by that. That was the only commentary I had on it. Now, I proceeded to go after Destiny for other things since those videos came out, such as his terrible comments on the assassination attempt of Trump. But I did not. And anyone can check me on this. I didn't say, haha, Destiny was blowing a dude. Haha, I didn't do any of that. I said, I feel bad. Unfortunately, I didn't want to dig any further into the story. I thought that the people that did the leaking, hopefully they would be held accountable, and that was it for the story as far as I was concerned. But if you start to think about this story a little, questions start to arise. Such as, did everybody that was involved in these tapes, the partners of Destiny, know they were being filmed? Now, in some cases, you'd be like, well, of course, if you're holding a phone, if it's from that perspective of someone holding a phone, they probably knew that there was film. But not always, and I didn't look at the rest of the videos. So I had no idea what like the camera perspective was. Was it a camera hidden in the room? And how did this get released? Was it a hack? And there were allegations. I have no connections to anyone where I would be DMing anyone or anything of that nature about what was going on. But there was scuttlebutt that people were saying, listen, the allegation is Destiny ended up sending these videos to a third party. And that third party was then hacked, which would mean Destiny released intimate videos with other partners to a third party, and there's a significant question as to whether or not those people, the partners, gave consent. Now, people brought this up, and I said, I don't know anything about it, so I didn't talk about it. But yes, two things can be true simultaneously. Destiny can be a victim of these leaks, but he could also be culpable for helping make other people victims who were involved in these leaks. And now it appears that that's exactly what seems to be being indicated by not just the partners that are victims, but it seems that Destiny and some of his associates are admitting that that's exactly what happened. And so there is a person named Pxie who was apparently a friend of Destiny's and had some sort of sexual act with Destiny. I don't know what the specific act is. And it seems that she consented to that being filmed. But she's one of the people whose images, and not just photos, not just nude photos, but videos of performing sex acts with Destiny was broadcast publicly for the internet to see. And it's one thing to be a public persona who's very gregarious and jumping into all sorts of controversy like Destiny. It doesn't mean that he's not a victim. But to be someone who's maybe not as quick to jump into that, who's a young woman, and now all of a sudden your family gets to see you performing sex acts, and your friends, and your neighbors, and your colleagues, that would be pretty terrible. It would be quite terrible. And so, what occurred was, and again, this is from DMs that I've seen, videos that have put out DMs. The first person that I think put out a video was a person by the name of President Sunday, and then Beckett. These two put out these videos where they released a bunch of DMs showing this. And basically what occurred, without getting into hyper detail, but what we now know has all but been confirmed, is that Pxie reached out to people surrounding Destiny, including someone by the name of Straighterade. I don't know what Straighterade's real name is, but we'll just go with that for now. And then a woman by the name of Kyla, who goes by the name Not So Erudite. I've talked to Erudite before. I haven't had an unpleasant experience with her necessarily, so I don't know much about her. But there you go. They were made aware of the fact that Pxie was claiming to be suicidal over this and wanted Destiny held accountable. Eventually, Pxie directly talked to Destiny. These DMs have been released by Destiny. She basically claims that she wants Destiny punished significantly, not necessarily through a criminal procedure, but through a civil procedure. And she wants him to pay an amount of money that would make him uncomfortable the rest of his life to think about nudes. In the context of that, Erudite was a middleman who was sort of offering advice, will be charitable, on how to not make this public. And Destiny's willingness to have some sort of compensation to help Pxie out. Inevitably, Destiny, the videos come out, Destiny releases a statement on his Reddit. That statement doesn't have a lot of contrition. It basically acknowledges the fact that he's a victim, says that he doesn't want to focus on this right now because there's litigation that's been threatened. That I understand. That he doesn't want to cover drama anymore. That sounds like a BS excuse. It seems like oftentimes people that quite frequently cover other people's drama, when it comes to their own drama, will say, I don't want to talk about drama anymore. It's understandable. But, you know, whatever. He says that he was troubled by the fact that she said that he just wants to punish her. The statement, you could go to Destiny's Reddit. I think it's pinned on his Reddit page. I'm not impressed by this statement. Of course, there's a limited amount of what he could say if litigation is being threatened. I'm assuming he talked to a lawyer who said, look, you don't want to admit guilt. But if Destiny was hacked, per se, and it wasn't his fault that these got leaked to a third party, he would have clearly said that. And he didn't. And it was obvious from other DMs that the most likely scenario was that he had, in fact, given these videos without Pxie's consent to a third party. Erudite is all but confirmed that is true. That's what occurred. So, yeah, it's cool, Courtney, I saw. So, that's the gist of what went on there. Pxie is now claiming that she's going to trial for a lawsuit. Destiny thinks he didn't do anything that would justify a lawsuit. A lot of people think, even in Destiny's community, think that what he did was grotesquely immoral. And now, on top of all of that, more people are coming forward. In particular, someone who I've interacted with in the past named Cherry. Also a streamer, also someone who apparently had a sexual relationship with Destiny, is claiming she was reached out to by two people who had audio recordings that were her having sex acts with Destiny. So it was clear to them, based on her voice, this is what Cherry's alleging, that it was Cherry. And Cherry's alleging something even worse than what Pxie's alleging. To my understanding, Pxie acknowledges that she consented to be filmed performing a sex act with Destiny. She just did not consent for him to give that film to another person. Cherry is claiming she never consented to any recording. Now, to be perfectly blunt, there is all but confirmed that Pxie's allegations seem to be true. At least the allegations of this was released by Destiny to a third party without my consent. Other things she's saying, I don't know that they've been confirmed, but that core allegation seems to be confirmed. There has not been an admission or a confirmation of Cherry's claims. They could be true, they could be false. Perhaps she has some sort of axe to grind. I know she has a history with Destiny. Destiny would also have incentive probably to deny this. But one of the initial things that you think of when this occurs, other than questions of the morality and all of that, is the floodgates would probably be open with something like this. So, for example, if the videos that were released publicly were of 3 to 4 different partners of Destiny, one would have to ask yourself, well, if he released Pxie's videos without her consent, did the other people in those videos give their consent? They may have. But it's a legitimate question. And if Destiny gave these videos to one third party, and the allegation is this third party, and this is alleged, I don't know if this is proof. Thanks so much, Cody, for the dono for $5. It says, hope all is well, Rob. My heart goes out to you. Thanks, Cody. I appreciate it. The allegation is this isn't like a girlfriend that Destiny had. This was apparently, this is what I'm hearing, someone who he'd never met in person, who he was just having a conversation with on Discord, and apparently was sending these videos in an attempt to develop a sexual relationship with this person. If he gave the videos to a person like that, how many other times may he have given out intimate videos without people's consent? Now, the answer could be 0. The answer could be everyone that he gave those videos to, this third party, they all consented other than Pxie. That could be true. And it could be that he never gave those videos to anyone else. That could also be true. But it seems ripe for questioning. Chances are, and allegedly there's a pattern of this, there was accusations well into Destiny's past, and I get a lot of this information from watching the videos that I mentioned, the President Sunday video and the Beckett video, in addition to hearing people like Jay Stock and Nicholas Dodorio, videos I watched today, that talked about some of this past history that I didn't know of, but there are allegations back in the mid-teen 2000s, like 2012, 2013, that there was a revenge threat of releasing nudes or something that occurred in the past. So maybe this is a pattern, as people have alleged. In addition to further buttress Cherry's comments, there are DMs that have been released of Destiny suggesting that he had a person come from the app Grindr who he is having a sex act with and recorded it, but it was muffled because it was in his pocket. Although that's not proof that that person didn't consent, it speaks to the fact that maybe this is an ongoing problem. If you're filming someone, but it's from your pocket, as opposed to openly holding the camera, it might suggest that you're trying to conceal that filming. All of this, by the way, very grotesque, but I'm just trying to keep it as, to keep my feelings on these sorts of acts out of the scope of this. Another thing that just colors just sort of the shame of all of this is, it's difficult to listen to. I only listened to about a minute and a half of it. But Pxie, who was friends with Destiny, who did become a sexual partner, her father had one point called into Destiny's show and talked favorably of Destiny. I think that that father may feel differently now, but there's another terrible spin on what's occurring. So that's where we're at. And before we get to Destiny's colleagues, let's talk a little about what does this mean. First off, the legal questions. I'm not prepared to answer the legal questions. I'm not a lawyer, nor have I looked heavily into the state jurisdiction and laws. There are potential civil penalties that I've seen releasing sexual videos without people's consent. A lot of what people consider revenge porn laws, there has to be a willful component to damage someone. There are potentially other criminal offenses with recording someone without their knowledge and then releasing. So there could be criminal charges involved there in addition to civil charges. What I would rather talk about is the morality of this and how terrible of a thing is. I think we could all agree. Let's start with the initial accusations that have all but been proven, that he released sex videos of a partner without their consent. By the way, Destiny's wife has apparently hinted at that videos of her with Destiny had been released to people without consent as well. I think it's pretty bad. I do. How bad? Well, it's not sexually assaulting someone. It's not that bad. But it's damaging in other ways, and maybe more significant ways long term, because as horrendous as being sexually assaulted would be, to have consensual sex acts of yours be broadcast to your friends and family might have different sorts of pain and repercussions that come for that. Now, Destiny didn't leak them publicly, and that's still worse. Had Destiny, or if we were to hypothetically find out that there was no hack, that Destiny released these himself publicly, that's worse. But releasing them to a third party, even if you didn't intend for that third party to release to anyone else, is still pretty damaging. Particularly when it's not just like, and this is going to be difficult to say, but I hope you'll go with me on this. It would be bad enough if it was a random sex partner, someone you just met on Tinder or Grindr. But it seems worse when it's someone that you're not just involved in a sexual relationship with, but someone that's your friend. And that was the relationship that Pxie thought she had. This was someone that she claimed she thought she could trust. So that's pretty bad, violating someone's trust in that way. I think that it's worse than creating AI video. You remember you saw the AI videos of like Taylor Swift performing sex acts and stuff. That's bad. I don't think that rises to badness of literally filming a person doing sex acts and then releasing those to a third party. It's not to the level of sexual assault. So the question is, what do audience members viewers. Think of this. Well, clearly, people that are predisposed to disliking Destiny and thinking that he's an immoral person, or maybe just not liking his political takes, they're going to say that this is reason to basically blacklist him and never talk to him again. But let's avoid those people for a second, and let's talk about someone who's a fan of Destiny's. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Is this irredeemable? My heart says no. Potentially criminal. What's happening, my friend? For $5 says, the drive to earn shekels has led many a man to pick up a broom. That's true. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the colleagues. I find that to be what piqued my interest more. Is it possible that Destiny could be incredibly remorseful and seek contrition and end up becoming a person that doesn't do these sorts of things? Yeah, that's possible. Does that mean that he should be banned from YouTube then and never be allowed to come back? I don't think so. Does that mean that his audience should never listen to him again? I think that's a personal choice. This clearly is significant enough that I would not blame anyone for saying, I don't want to listen to this guy ever again. But I guess that'll have to be up to each individual member of the audience. And to be fair, based on what I've seen on post on his Reddit, it does seem that there are a significant amount of people that are saying they're at least going to take a break or perhaps never watch Destiny again. Now, I think that when you're talking about large communities like that there will be a significant number of people that stick around regardless. There would be a small percentage of people that if Destiny came out and made fun of the situation and just said he didn't give a shit about Pxie or Cherry, would cheer him on. But I don't think that's likely for Destiny to do that. And I think a large portion of his audience would not stand by that. They would leave. But certainly there will be people that are predisposed for making excuses for him because they're members of that community and they like. Whereas if it was someone like me that had similar allegations released about me, I don't think the chances of that happening are likely at all, seeing as I'm an old, boring, prude, happily married husband that doesn't really talk to people in DMs and stuff like that. Nor do I think that there's ever been anything of me or anyone I've ever been intimate with filmed. So, just throwing that out there. Nor would anyone want to see those films. But if it was me, those same people would say, oh, immoral, terrible, hypocrite. Yeah, I know there's a bunch of other lore about Destiny. I'm not going to cover it. I've heard that there was a kid that was doing DDoS attacks on Destiny, and Destiny publicly said that he was going to basically execute the person. So maybe speaking to his character, but not really relevant to what I'm talking about here. Then the question becomes, what about someone like me? And I don't mean me to make it personal, but what about someone who's a streamer? It's one thing to, and we're going to talk about Destiny's colleagues, the people that are in business relationships with Destiny. But what about people that are just casually interacting with Destiny? Like you're a streamer. Let's say you're Comic Dave Smith and you're doing Piers Morgan's show and Piers brings Destiny on. Are you obligated to say, this gentleman's done something so heinous I refuse to share a platform with him? Again, I could see people that would say that. Now, caveats against this would be you don't believe the allegations. They haven't been proven. I'm a big believer of trying to not hold people accountable until things have been proven pretty significantly. Especially when it comes to public figures, especially if they're controversial. There are certainly many people that have an incentive to bash Destiny. There's many people that have an incentive to bash me, and I have 1/1000th of the audience of Destiny. So you can imagine. And so, I had people tell me from the first time I ever interacted with them, don't do panels with him because of XYZ. I didn't really check into XYZ. I said, if it comes up, and we'll see. Personally, I considered being done interacting with Destiny. One of the red lines that I have is, I don't want to talk to someone or debate someone who wants to assassinate political figures that I support. To me, that is a non-starter. If you think that violence, in particular up to the maximum level of violence, killing me or a politician that I support, is on the table, then conversation with you becomes impossible for me. So I debated whether or not I thought Destiny was actually calling for the death of Trump. I'm now leaning towards possibly yes. Not because of this situation, but because of comments that he's made furthering after the assassination attempt of Trump. But put that to the side. If you're a left-wing streamer and you've spoken up about believing women and you called yourself a feminist, are you willing to be on a panel with Destiny? Maybe you say no, but give him time. Maybe you say, yeah, it's heinous, but I think that he's tried to be contrite, and so I'm okay with it. I don't know. Now, before we get to the colleagues, one more thing I want to talk about. What about the bad decision-making of people like Pxie and Cherry? Yeah, this could be the case in any time someone is victimized that you could say, but wait a minute, did you make very bad choices? Of course, many times that's true. With all of the allegations that surrounded Destiny and knowing how public his life could be, even beyond those allegations, you're taking a risk allowing yourself to be filmed in a sexual act with him. You're taking that risk anytime. I mean, even if it's your husband or wife, you're taking a risk. And the further distance from that sort of marriage relationship that you go, the bigger the risk you're taking. And so I understand people that are saying, well, you knew what was coming. But I don't think that justifies what happened to Pxie. Cherry's situation, slightly different. If she was recorded without her consent, you could still say you knew what you were getting into with someone like Destiny. And again, I can't stress enough, the difference between the two allegations, yes, there is a difference of severity, but the difference is it's all been confirmed by public messages that Pxie's core allegation of Destiny gave sexual content of her to a third party without her consent. That's all been confirmed. Cherry has made an allegation that has not been confirmed. That doesn't mean it's incorrect. It may be. Perhaps it's a malicious lie. Perhaps it's just a misunderstanding. Perhaps someone lied to Cherry and Destiny never did this and they're just screwing her over. I don't know. It could be any or all of that. Could be truthful. And I've had people say, well, she has an axe to grind with Destiny. Maybe so. I'm just putting out there what the allegations are. And one of the things is, you're going to see a flood of accusations that come out. Just using your common sense, like I said, although it's not 100%, if Destiny didn't get consent from one person, then perhaps he didn't get consent from the rest of the people in those videos that got hacked and made public, allegedly got hacked. So there could be more victims there. Or if he gave it to this one person, perhaps he gave it to other people. And so likely what you're going to see, I know people have made comparisons to Diddy. I don't think it rises to that level. But much like with Diddy, I think there are a lot of people sweating bullets like, uh-oh, am I going to get caught up in this? I think that's likely to be the case. There's probably people that have received sexual material from Destiny with him with other partners that are like, oh boy, did I get something that was sent to me without everyone's consent? Or there are people that have had sexual relationships with Destiny wondering, was I filmed? Or that know they're filmed saying, was that film given to someone else? And so I would expect that there are conversations going on with people behind the scenes and that you're probably likely to hear more accusations. As such, because we could all think that's probably likely, you're probably more likely to hear false accusations as well. If you wanted to make a lie up about Destiny and Smearim, now would be the appropriate time, you would think. People are more likely to believe it. And so it's unfortunate that this is probably just the beginning of the saga. Not every person who makes a claim is 100% proven that that claim be true, but it may be. I don't know. That's the problem when it's been publicly confirmed that you do an immoral act like this. There have been people, President Sunday all but accuses Pxie of faking her suicide claims in an effort to get a bigger payday. Could be true. I'll be damned if I'm going to shame a victim and say that. I would think that I could easily see how a young woman who's gone so far as to have her father call this person on stream could feel really shitty and perhaps even suicidal that her life's been turned upside down because now there are videos of her having sex public everywhere. So that's all I have to say about that in particular. I have no reason to believe that she faked that. I guess it's in the realm of possibility, but you're not going to hear me. So I think it's pretty heinous to jump to that conclusion. Here's another problem. There's a difficult scenario of what would you do if that's you? Now, again, maybe it's the sexist in me. I think it would be bad for anyone. For me, it would be bad for worse for a younger woman. Because I think we live in a culture that should prioritize a woman's chastity more, fairly or wrong, or unfairly. And so I could see as someone, and I heard people say Pxie was trying to sort of make her brand on, look, I know a lot of people had to get in relationships with Destiny in order to propel their streaming career. I didn't have to do that. Well, she did have a relationship, and that's blown up in her face. So, anyways, what would you do if it's you? So, like, all of a sudden, you're horrified. You go to X or something, and there's a video of you having sex. Now, maybe it's not clear. Maybe it's fuzzy. Maybe it's only waist down or chest down. And you're infuriated. Do you go public? Because now, all doubts are erased. Everybody knows it's you now. And the bigger stink that's made about it, the more people will see. So you're in a difficult position. I could totally understand why you would say, I'm not going to go public with this. Because any amount of pushing back that I do further just exacerbates the situation and means more people see it. I believe the video was of her performing oral sex, though I can't confirm that. So I can understand why Pxie was hesitant to come forward, and I can understand there may be other victims that don't want to come forward. Like, the video that was circulated the most was the video of Destiny performing oral sex on another man. Maybe that man is outraged that that video was released, but doesn't want to make a stink about it because right now his identity is concealed. So he's just not going to go further with it. It could be. I don't know. Doesn't mean, even though his face isn't shown, that he still wouldn't be a victim in that situation. So I could understand that there would be more people out there, potentially, than we've even seen, that we may never know the total amount of people. In fact, it's likely we won't. That were recorded, and then Destiny, without their consent, released the videos. We'll never know the truth. And you can understand the difficulties in getting into that. Why would Destiny do this? I have no clue. Is it an effort purely for him to hook up with other people? I've been married over 10 years. Even before I was married, I was not a very promiscuous person. I'm 40 years old. Is hookup culture now that it's impressive to send videos of you having sex with other people in an attempt to have another sexual partner? To me, I don't think this shit would have worked for me. It didn't work for the people I knew. That wasn't how things were going on. But maybe that's the extent of it. Maybe he's just someone who's addicted to sex and he views this as an attempt. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a power thing. And he feels some sort of power and control over people by filming them and releasing those films to other people without their consent. Maybe that act of filming he thinks gives some sort of bribery power over them. That kind of keeps his orbiters and the people in that sphere less likely to go against him. I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but I know people are pontificating. Those are just thoughts that I came up with. Now we get to the colleagues. Now, there are people like, and I'm not going to know all of the ins and outs of business relationships and things like this, but this was where I saw that there was a lack of people really looking into what was going on. If I was in a business relationship with Destiny, like we did one show a week together in person, and you have to understand, that's different than if I, like, let's take someone that I might stream with. Like, I hate to bring up someone's name in a stream like this, but let's say my friend Aircraft Sparky, who's a smaller right-wing streamer like me. If me and Aircraft Sparky decided we were going to do a show together once a week, we don't live in the same area, so it would be digital. That's hardly a business relationship. But if we had tens of thousands of people watching and huge sums of money were being donated for that show, so much so that we were in person in a studio doing the show, and we were getting significant guests like Democrat politicians that were vying to be the head of the DNC, former Democratic candidates for president, etc., then you can start to see how that's a more significant business arrangement. And there are people in those sorts of arrangements with Destiny. Those would be people like Not So Erudite, who does the Bridges show. Those would be people like Pxie that does a show with Destiny. There's a gentleman by the name of Dan that does one of these shows with Destiny. And then there are probably other people that I don't know their specifics. That to me is different than someone who's maybe just an orbiter. So someone who frequently appears on Destiny's show. To me, the obligation to speak up on these allegations increases the closer to the situation you become. So, one of the people I was listening to is a person I've interacted with before, named J-Stock. I don't have any acrimonious relationship with J-Stock. I wouldn't say we were friends or anything like that. We've talked several times. That's about the gist of it. J-Stock happens to do a show occasionally with Cherry. Cherry is one of the people that's now accusing Destiny, and J-Stock is backing Cherry, and he wants nothing to do with Destiny at this point. From listening to him and Nicholas Denorio, who's another person that's interacted with Destiny, and Turkey Tom, who's a person that's interacted with Destiny, it appears that people that were in closer relationships with Destiny, including potentially business associates and just orbiters that were close to him, knew of these allegations for a while now. So the leaks were 2 months and change ago, but there were people that knew that Pxie was saying, I'm having a really hard time. And they basically believed the accusation. However, Pxie didn't want people to go public. One of the weird side stories to this that's kind of tragic is apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently another Destiny orbiter who I've talked to named Lonerbox is now dating Pxie. So imagine if you're Lonerbox and you consider yourself to be friends with Destiny, and all of a sudden you find out that your girlfriend's sex tape with your friend Destiny is now publicly available online. And one of the reasons for that is Destiny gave that video to another woman without her consent. I could see being mightily pissed. Lonerbox was also feuding with other people online from the song community, whatever, and announced recently that he is taking time off of streaming. I would heavily bet that this situation involving his girlfriend, probably a big reason why. Anonymous Coward says, one theory NSC is, for $5, thanks, NSC is sweeping Not So Erudite. Immigration status is tied to our podcast with the Destiny succeeding. Destiny's depravity metaphorically screwed her. We'll talk about Erudite. So, you had these people that heard and believed that this is going on with Pxie, but they didn't come public. And this is what President Sunday, who puts this video out that sort of starts all of this is what he's accusing people like Nicholas D'Onorio of and others. They didn't come public. They're cowards. And Nicholas's argument from the video I watched, this is how much free time I had today. I was just listening to this stuff in the background. Nicholas's argument was like, but I couldn't come public until the victim wanted to go public. And I think he's right. And the reason he gives, you might say, well, that's because he was covering up or whatever. Maybe, but the reason he gives, I would share his belief, which is, but what happens if you go public and you say all of this, and then, let's say, hypothetically, he's like, I'm not going to name the person, but this occurred. And then Pxie settles with Destiny for money. And then she comes out and says, that's all bullshit. It was consensual. Now the person who broke the story without the victim wanting to come forward looks like a total a-hole. Like he just smeared this innocent guy. So yeah, if the victim doesn't want to come forward, even if you believe them, I understand. It's their story to break. And if they don't want to break the story, I understand that. So I don't blame any of the colleagues or the associates or the orbiters for not coming public with this if it's true that Pxie was telling people, don't go forward with this. I can't be more clear on that. And that's Erudite, that's Dan, that's Nicholas D'Onorio, Turkey Tom, whoever. Why would they take the risk of going public? Now, maybe you say, well, maybe they call police or they call a lawyer on Pxie's behalf. And maybe there's an argument to be had there. To me, that's not a huge issue. But I would not go public. If someone came to me and told me something in confidence that was terrible, but said, please, please, please don't talk about this publicly, I probably wouldn't. If it rose to the level of what I thought was grotesque criminality, I'd probably call law enforcement. But that would be it. So I'm not casting stones at any of that. My question is, to those who were aware of Pxie's allegations and believed her, and that's important, and many of them are saying, or at least many people I've seen publicly are like, well, I was aware of this and I knew it was true. Why did you continue to do partnerships and collaborations with Destiny? If you've known about this for a month and a half, but you continued to be involved in a business relationship with Destiny, or routinely stream with him, and you believed these allegations, why? That's the question that intrigued me. And the reason it intrigued me is because with all of this drama, the truth of the matter is, Destiny's blacklisted me. I have zero connection to him. I've never met Pxie. Now that Cherry's came forward, I know Cherry a little. But I've actually interacted with, and I assume would be welcome to talk, and enjoyed my time talking with many of these other people. Pisco, Erudite, J-Stock's not in a business relationship, but you see what I'm meaning. Lonerbox. And that's what intrigued me. You have this big community. You have Destiny and all of his fans, and then you have the people in business relationships with them, and then you have Orbiter people that are around. And for better or worse, I don't give a shit how much you dislike Destiny. The truth is, much of the online debate thing is centered around Destiny. In fact, Destiny has broken through to taking that online type debate that people like me have been doing for years and broke through to the mainstream. Doing shows like Piers Morgan, talking to people like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. So So it's of interest to me, and I've always suspected, and I talked about this publicly, when I thought Destiny was spiraling, he was having problems, looked like an impending divorce, I believe, around this time. Then the assassination attempt of Trump. He really hates Trump. Trump comes out looking like a boss, raising his fist saying, fight. Destiny's spiraling. He's making fun of the firefighter that died. All of that's bad enough. The thing that he said that I thought was borderline inexcusable was when his friend and co-host Pxie asked him, Destiny, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? And Destiny's response was, I don't know if I could say because of terms of service. Well, what I will say is the worst thing that could have happened was the assassin missing. That, to me, is borderline. Now, I'm not saying I was going to go on a crusade to say YouTube kick this guy off, but I didn't want to deal with him anymore. Now, if he was just saying that because he was spiraling and it was just said in the heat of the moment, that's one thing. And I tried to give Destiny the benefit of the doubt. And I reached out to people in Destiny's orbit and said, hey, listen, you might want to calm your man down because he might say some shit that ends his career. Or he might inspire someone to do something really shitty. But one of the things I question is, how many of the people that are Destiny's friends that he surrounded himself with are actually his friends? Or how many are there because it helps their channel? It helps them financially. I don't know. I don't know. I remember when Destiny got kicked off of Twitch, there were an awful lot of people on Twitch that were left-wingers that were like associates of Destiny or agreed with Destiny that were like, oh boy, I can't wait to get those Destiny's viewers, which I thought was pretty scummy. If that's your friend. And I'm sure there are people salivating right now. Ooh, maybe a lot of Destiny's audience will come my way now. I don't know. But are those people really your friends? Or are they just pretending to be your friend because they're getting something out of the relationship? And as soon as you become a hindrance to them, all of a sudden... By the way, that's normal of people in life anyways. I've known people like that. You know, I've known the person that gets the big settlement, and all of a sudden they're overflowed with cash, and they get all these friends. Then once the cash dries up and they're not buying drinks at the bar anymore, where'd those friends go? So, that's a question I had around the Trump assassination stuff. So now that question seems relevant today. If you believe the allegations, why were you still in a business relationship with Destiny? Erudite, Pxie, Dan, anyone else that's in an official business relationship? Anyone that might not be an official business relationship, but believe the allegations and continued to buddy up with Destiny and talk to him friendly and do shows with him? Why hasn't anyone asked that question? Now, let me give you some potential answers. Because Erudite's answer. Erudite put out a statement here earlier today, and it basically said, and we'll get to Erudite's statement specifically, but she basically says the reason that I've continued through this business relationship with Destiny up till this point was because I believed he was apologetic and remorseful and wanted to make amends. You may not like that answer, but it's an answer. Perhaps their answer, and suspiciously, many people haven't spoken up. Now, maybe they didn't speak up because they're waiting to see what the legal proceedings are. Maybe they didn't speak up because they're witnesses. Or, in the case of Pxie, maybe he's counsel for Destiny, and so he can't speak on the matter. Could be. But it seems the closer you are to Destiny, right up into Destiny, you're at this point obligated to make a statement, or more obligated the closer you are. Clearly, Destiny's made a statement. But if you do a show with Destiny on the regular and you're involved in a business relationship, seems like you would speak up unless there's something preventing you. The only person, Dan said a couple words. I've seen Pxie. I've seen people like Nick Tenorio, Turkey Tom. I've seen Jay Stuck come out. Counterpoint said some, he's not really in that much of a relationship. He said some, whatever. But there's a lot of people that didn't really say much. The further are you away, the less important it is, I think. But just making the point. My particular question is, let me re-ask it, and I'll tell you why it's important. If you are an associate of his, business associate or a close associate, who was aware of the allegations and believed them and continued to work with Destiny, but now that the allegations are out in the public sphere, you're saying that you're going to take time away or you're not willing to work with Destiny. Why have you changed? Because to me, it seems that the most likely answer is because it's affecting your reputation. In other words, you would have been more than happy to continue your relationship with Destiny as long as it benefited you. And if that meant that this stayed private and was never made public, oh boy, you would have just continued apace. But now that it's been made public, you're going to claim for moral reasons, I'm stepping aside. And that reeks of it not being for moral reasons, but maneuvering to protect your own ass. That's what it looks like. Now, if your argument was, before it became public, I stood by Destiny, and I'm going to stand by him now, because I believe he's sorry. Okay, Ginger Miss Prime for $5 says, Connor, if that was my daughter, I'd kill him. Also, Connor, sweeping for Destiny and staying friends. So friends if it's not his daughter. Yeah. So let's say that your argument is, I think he's very sorry and it won't happen again. Okay. You're standing by him now, and you were then. Again, you may hate that answer, but do you understand the difference? What I'm questioning is the people that were standing by him when it wasn't public, even though they believed the allegations, but now that it's been made public, oh, never mind. Because it seems like it's not what he did that's repulsed you. It's the fact that there's public outcry. And that's not morality. If you're staying with him in both scenarios, okay, then you could say, at least in this specific example, it wasn't just self-serving as to why you changed your position. Or maybe your answer is, yeah, I think it's real shitty, but I don't think it rises to the level of me not associating with him. Okay. But my specific question is for those who did not distance themselves, who went, yucked it up and continued business relationships, and are now like, oh, I got to think about this. Because the only thing that seemingly has changed, if you believe, now if you say, but I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I thought Pxie wasn't telling the truth. Or you might say, I didn't hear about this shit. Which, of course, who could fault you then? But if you heard it and believed it, and you talked to other people and said, yeah, that's bad. And you have people like Straighter Aid and Erudite that are go-betweens between Destiny and Pxie, who are saying that they believed the allegations were true, and basically Destiny was all but confirming it to them. Why would you continue to defend Destiny and act like nothing was going wrong publicly? But then once the story breaks publicly, you're like, ooh, now I'm going to take some time. I'm going to distance myself. That's the question I have. And if you haven't made a statement, maybe you're smart, because you'll be able to clear up why there's a discrepancy there. Now, the Erudite's statement specifically. Erudite, there were DMs of her released that people were accusing her of basically being Destiny's Ghislaine Maxwell. Because it did seem very callous. At a surface level, it seemed like, basically, if you read between the lines, Erudite's going to Pxie saying, yeah, Destiny's real sorry, but here's ways to make sure this doesn't go public. How much is it going to take to, what can we do to help? Erudite's claims, and she's provided some screenshots to speak towards this, is Pxie was the one saying, I don't want it to go public. So Erudite was like giving advice on that front, okay? And that she felt bad for Pxie and was honestly trying to convey, and she felt Destiny did as well, convey to Pxie, we're not paying you to shut you up, we're paying you because, or Destiny's paying you because he feels bad and wants to try to do something to make it right. But by no means, Erudite says, was I trying to silence Pxie. And then she goes on to say, and you can read her statement, it's on X. And I wish I was at my computer, I would bring it up for you. But unfortunately, because I'm not at my home office, I'm streaming via phone here. But you can go check it out. And in the last paragraph, she says, now the allegations from Cherry have came out. Well, let me backtrack. She says, the reason I stuck with Destiny and continued our business relationship was because I thought he was remorseful and wanted to make amends. Now the allegations from Cherry have came out. And Erudite supports those as well. And so she's decided, pending changes in the future, that she's going to take a step back and put on hiatus her business relationships with Destiny. And so, I have questions, Erudite. The first question I have is, had Cherry's allegations not came forth, would you have taken a step back from your business relationship with Destiny? Let me repeat. Let's assume a world where Cherry never releases these allegations. And so we're where we were yesterday morning. It's just Pxie's allegations. Would Erudite have put her business relationship on hold with Destiny? And you might say, well, why does that matter? Well, go back to the initial question I asked. If you're in a business relationship with Destiny, and when you first heard and believed these allegations, you continued that relationship. But now that they've been made public, you're distancing yourself. That seems very skeptical. That seems like it's not that you're making a moral stance, it's that you're making a check your ass stance. That you don't want to get blamed for standing behind Destiny and have the bad PR that comes with that. That's what it seems like. Now, it seems like Erudite's going to try to get out of that by saying, well, it's because now there's new allegations from Cherry. So, when it was just Pxie, I was like, okay, he's sorry. But now that there's more allegations. But that still leads to more questions. Okay, if that's the case, then Erudite, assuming that would be her answer, that yes, I would have stayed with my business relationship if it was just Pxie, but now that there are new allegations, I think it's just too much. And so now but Destiny is apologetic and wants to make amends. Maybe now that's not the case, she doesn't think in her mind, because he didn't tell her about Cherry. Okay? Next question then. Erudite, when you became aware of these tapes being leaked, and Pxie saying that it was released non-consensually from her, and you had these conversations with Destiny, did you ask Destiny if the other people in those recordings gave Destiny consent? And if you didn't, why? Because if Erudite's argument's going to be, well, here's the deal. The reason that I changed from, yes, I knew about Pxie, yes, I was facilitating conversations between her and Destiny, and the reason that I stuck behind Destiny with our business relationship was because I thought that he was being completely honest now, and he was sorry, and he was trying to make amends. But now that there's more allegations, I'm going to take a step back. Did you ever ask him the obvious question? That would have been the first thing I asked Destiny. If he said, yeah, I released, Pxie's right, I released that video to another person, I'd say, what about all the other people? What about them? What about the guy you were with? What about the other women you were with? Those videos got hacked, apparently, and made public. You apparently also gave those videos to this third party. Did they give you consent? Or are there more victims? Now, let's say I believe Erudite, and she's like, the reason I'm sticking with Destiny is because he's proactive. He's trying to help Pxie. He feels terrible. He wants to make it right. Was Destiny proactive to the other potential victims? Did he reach out to them? Did he make sure they were all right? Did he offer them financial compensation? If not, does that sound like someone who's sorry? You might say, who gives a shit? I like Destiny. I don't give a shit. Those people didn't, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Pxie came to him and said she was having a problem. Okay, he tried to help her. The other people maybe didn't. So, Destiny's not obligated to go out there. Maybe so. Maybe that's your take. But that doesn't seem to be Erudite's position. Erudite's taking the position of what Destiny did was extremely heinous. But he's being proactive in trying to make amends. Then you would expect him to be truthful about all of the victims. Hell, I would have went further. If it was me and I was Destiny's friend and I was considering not associating with him anymore, based on how heinous I believe these actions were, not only would I ask him about the other people in the tapes that got released, whether or not they consented, but I would have said, and be honest, have you done this before? Have you sent material like this to anyone else? Have you recorded people against their will? Maybe I would have believed his answers, but if I later found out that he was dishonest with me, that would have been that. I've said, no, too much. So that's my question. Did Erudite ask Destiny those questions? If not, why didn't she? Seems to be a gross oversight for someone who thought this was a very serious situation. Or did she ask? And if so, what did Destiny say? Now, granted, no one's asking Erudite to give specific names of people, nor to say anything that could jeopardize some sort of lawsuit. But I feel that's a question she could answer at face value. Yeah, I did ask him, and he did mention there were other people. Or yeah, I did ask him, and he didn't give any answer that there were other people. Or he said there weren't other people. Now, I'm not saying Erudite's not telling the truth. Perhaps she truly believed that Destiny was contrite. She thinks it's a very serious situation. She feels terrible for Pxie. But she said, because I think Destiny's apologetic and trying to make amends, I'm going to stick out this business relationship. Maybe she did ask Destiny about other victims. Maybe she didn't. And then, now she's decided to put her business arrangement on hold now that she finds out that there is potentially a second victim. But I'm going to tell you right now, and that's entirely possible. I'm just going to tell you my gut feeling. This is proof of nothing. But to me, what it looks like is Erudite liked the lucrative business arrangement she had with Destiny. She probably was making decent money from it. And she probably was getting a lot of eyeballs on her channel and her material from it. And if this would have been kept under the rug and there would have been a private settlement and it wouldn't have been made public, she would have continued that like nothing happened. And I think there's an awful lot of people in Destiny's orbit that would do the same thing. Well, yeah, it was bad, but he wasn't like murder and, he's sorry. So, that's their right. Now, I'm not even saying, I already went through. That's why I went through this first. What would you do if you're a fan of Destiny? What would you do if you're a streamer? I don't know. I guess my calculus would change if I was friends with him. Maybe, potentially. Or at least the threshold of how bad it would have to be and how apologetic that I think he would. I'd be more lenient if I was close friends with the guy for 10 years. You would think that of anyone. But at what point do we say, it seems like people are judging the public reaction based on how much they're going to distance themselves? What if the public reaction from the majority of the DGG community and other online people were like, fuck it, that's no big deal? Would people distance themselves as much? Maybe. Maybe not. What about people that are joking about the situation? You could joke and still take it seriously. What about people that just say, I don't give a shit about whether or not Destiny's a good person or a bad person. I just like his political content. I think that that's a position you can have. What about this position? Oh, Just Joe, thanks so much for the $5. Says, it's amazing what people will allow to happen when their greed outweighs their morality. Yeah. I made these posts. I asked erudite questions. Before that, I put a post out in X and said, a question to the Destiny colleagues. And I gave that exact question I gave you. If, when this was private, you believed it, but were willing to stand behind Destiny and keep working with them, but now that it's public, you're not, you're distancing yourself, why the change? And one of the people that responded was J-Stock. Now, J-Stock's real pissed at Destiny, particularly since his friend Cherry has came out with her allegations. And he hasn't minced words. And J-Stock feels bad. He says, I was aware of the allegations. And I should have done more. But J-Stock's not really the type of person I'm criticizing. Because one, I don't think he really had a business relationship with Destiny, that he was super close with them. And secondly, I'm not blaming the people for not coming public. I understand that. If the victim didn't want to come public, I don't know that going public would have been the right move for reasons I already talked about. So that's not, but to J-Stock's credit, he's like, I feel bad. I should have spoke up. That's different than, yeah, I kept doing shows with Destiny. We kept doing our business relationship, acting like nothing was going on, even though all the while I knew the truth. Oh, and now that it's came public, now I can talk about it. I'm like, yeah, it's really bad. I'm going to distance myself. That's what I'm questioning. And of course, you have people in the Destiny community, because they know that I'm on the opposite end of politics of him. They're like, but what about Trump? What about, you voted for Trump? He's a rapist. It's a joke. First off, anytime I talked about double standard of the application of the law of places like the FBI, all they would do is scream whataboutism. And yet the very first thing they do when we're talking about a personal responsibility, is to then take it into the realm of public politics using a whataboutism. Secondly, the difference between the scenarios are, in one scenario, we basically have a public admission. Thanks so much, Beans, for the membership. I appreciate it. If people's defense of Destiny is, I don't believe the allegations, I'm sympathetic to that. But if it's, I believe it, but, that's a little different. So to all of the pathetic people saying, but Trump, okay. Enjoy your personal accountability there. The last thing I'll say is, there is a question to be had. Listen, I think I'm a sinful, immoral person. I think that I've been blessed with a life that is almost beyond comprehension, so much more than I deserve. I have an amazing wife. I have an amazing son. We're all relatively healthy. I mean, I couldn't ask for more. I'm amongst one of the luckiest people that ever lived. And I'm basically a piece of shit. I've never done anything like this. I can honestly say I've not filmed people against their will or released sex tapes. But I've been petty. I've lied. I'm arrogant. I'm partially narcissistic. I'm combative. Why does it seem like so many streamers, particularly the bigger you get, are shitty people? Are we made that way? Does becoming a streamer make you that? Or is it that the characteristics that make you more likely to be a shitty person are characteristics that you need to get popular streaming. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not putting myself at the level of any of those people that I talked about, let alone Destiny. But Erudite and Dan and Pisco and J-Stock, almost all of them have much bigger audiences than me. Nicholas Denoria, Turkey Tom, way bigger than me. Oh, did someone gift memberships? Thank you. I can't see if someone gifted memberships. Thank you so much. It's probably Jess Gerald. Thank you if it was. You're always incredibly generous. I don't know what it is. And in particular, the sexual deviance. Like, how many of these big-time streamers, and not just politics streamers, video game streamers and others, where it's like these incredible sex scandals that you're just like, what? Nicholas D'Orio. Not D'Orio. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I don't give a lot of advice, but I'll say this. I understand people live different lives. Now, Jess Joe, thanks for the $10. Says, here's for coffee. Congrats on having a family. I hope to have one of my own one day. Wasn't me gifting memberships, but whoever did is a legend. Thank you. Well, whoever gifted, thank you. Thank you. You're the best. I understand some people aren't as fortunate as me. Like, this is a hobby of mine. This isn't my job. I love talking about politics. Most of the time I don't wade into sort of drama type stuff. I don't wade into a lot of the culture stuff. Sometimes I do, most of the time not. This is a hobby. My full-time job is working home health care. I didn't start this hobby to make friends. You meet people, you meet acquaintances, and sometimes maybe you become friends with them, but that wasn't my intent. And basically, as a 40-year-old man, I have a close circle of friends in real life, and that's basically all I need at this point. I'm a friendly enough person, I'm affable, but I'm very lucky. I have a tight-knit community. I live in rural Pennsylvania. I got a ton of friends, family. I know it's different for some people. Some people, the online community is their community. There are people who I probably massively disagree, who probably hate my guts, and many of them would cheer for me to be removed from YouTube, that are in Destiny's community, that need that community. That's, to them, that's their friends. Like, my friends are the people I went to high school with and then college and that are my neighbors, and that's their friend. They don't have that. And it must be difficult, and I'm sympathetic. Hector was the person who donated. Thank you so much, Hector. I'm sympathetic to that. I feel terrible. Jess Gerald for $5. Thanks so much. Says Hector just dropped 30 memberships. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Jess Gerald, again. I am sympathetic to that. There are also people who, when it comes to dating, are going to try to get in relationships online. And maybe that's through places like Discord. If I could give any advice, it would be, please be careful. If you're a man, if you're a woman, whatever, be careful. You don't know if those messages that you're sending that maybe are embarrassing or private will end up being made public. You don't know who that person really is. And if you're a streamer or someone that you know that there are going to be people, particularly young people, that sort of might look up to you, please consider that when you're getting involved in personal relationships. If you start to bang every young orbiter around you, things will probably go poorly. Even if you don't do anything illegal, even if you don't do anything immoral, you might regret it. I just don't think it's worth it. You know, people were saying, like, particularly with Destiny, it's like, here's a guy who's a millionaire. Like, he has so many options. But, I don't know. It's hard for me to relate. It's not the type of thing that... And again, I'm sitting here. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. I'm a shitty person. But it's not that sort of shittiness. So, I don't know. You know, I knew this, I'll be vague about this, just in case anyone local is watching, but I had a friend, really cool guy, and was in a band locally. And all these friends that were girls that, like, really were, like, gonna hook up with this guy. And I liked the guy, I thought he was a good friend. But being a good friend doesn't necessarily mean you'd be a good boyfriend. You see what I'm saying? Thank you, Gizmo, for the $5. Says, thanks for all you do. I appreciate it, Gizmo. I always appreciate it. You know, but that person was cool. They were the center of attention when they were on stage. And certain younger people like that, particularly younger girls. So, you know, yeah, and then, you know, I see what you're saying. Doesn't Destiny criticize drama like this? Maybe. I'm sure he's waded in on stuff and pointed the finger at other people. But who knows? 5 years from now, when I'm involved in some sort of scandal, you guys can point back to this video and go, Rob, big man, pointing the finger at other people. Now look where he's at, I guess. I do, to some extent, agree. You know, I believe in karma, and I do try to feet pics in the future confirmed. No one wants to see any part of my body. I should probably be a VTuber and just get this ugly mug off here. By the way, I did want to get trimmed up this week, so hopefully tomorrow, if you see me tomorrow night streaming, I'll be trimmed up. Hopefully. But yeah, I don't know. It's if you're gonna, you know, and listen, that's sort of, you know, I'm friends with Andrew Wilson, who runs, you know, the Crucible, and a lot of Andrew's materials going on like whatever podcasts and talking to people about the immorality of them being OnlyFans performers or the immorality of them being in an open relationship. And if you do that, you have to expect that people are going to attack your relationship or faults with it. And Destiny was someone that was involved in that to a certain extent. Did Destiny ever make a pass at me in DMs? No. Again, I've tried to be as fair as possible to Destiny this evening. My personal interactions with Destiny behind the scenes have been nothing but professional. It's literally been two types of conversations. The vast bulk of them have been, hey man, wish you well, saw you on that show. What was this argument you were making, or you want to debate about this at some point? That's the overarching amount of what our conversations have been. There have been a couple that have been like, hey Destiny, I screwed up my audio on my recording. Can I rip your recording? Sure man, no problem. But there's not been any animosity, inappropriate in any way whatsoever. Yeah, I know they know I'm not a target, but just to take I know it's a humorous question, but to take it, there's never been any, not just like passes made at me, but there's not been any hostility or anything like that. It's been decent to me behind the scenes. Yeah, he rage quit on me and told his audience that it was because of AI and it was all bullshit, which I've gone through that many a time. So what? That's fair game. That's in the context of us arguing politically. That's different than personal shit. I don't like your wife. Your relationship sucks. You did this immoral thing. Those are different. Rob GPT, yeah, that's right. That's different. No skin off my back. Now, I started all this because I said the one person in that community that I actually enjoy talking to the most is Pisco, who I ironically think Pisco's better than Destiny. I do. I think Pisco's a better debater. I think Destiny's more entertaining. But I think Pisco, if he grows into his own personality more and gets his own sort of... I think sometimes he's too hostile. He's trying to be Destiny too much. I do. Like, the best conversations I have with Pisco are just like me and him on a space where we're arguing with each other, but it's not like super hostile. I think that's when he's at his best. But hey, what the hell do I know? I barely have anyone that watches me. So don't take advice from me on how to grow your channel. But I do think that in many of these topics that I like talking about, Pisco's a more difficult opponent than Destiny. So I'm curious as to what he has to say about all of this, and that's what I thought. Just like upon the initial reaction of seeing the leaked videos, my first reaction was, I feel terrible for Destiny and those other people that were in those videos that this got leaked. That must be a horrible feeling. That was my God's honest first take. Then when I found out about Pxie, I was like, I feel terrible for her and the rest of those people if Destiny really did give that to a third party without their consent. But the very next thing I thought about was, I wonder what the people close to Destiny that I know, like Pisco, think. Bubblegum gun for $2, thanks so much. Lawyer is literally a government job for internet losers. And I haven't heard him make a comment. Now, like I said, for all I know, he's consulting with Destiny as an attorney, and so he can't speak up. That could be the case. Maybe he's just waiting for more facts to come out. I don't know. Yeah, Damien, the AI thing, it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's funny. I love, like I said, last weekend I was bored just yelling with Destiny sycophants about the Rob GBT thing. I think it's fun. But I don't know if Pisco can respond. If he's consulting with Destiny about legal matters, I don't know that he's allowed to respond. That would probably be a breach of attorney-client privilege to some degree. So I don't know. But if I talk to him, I'll mention it. Yeah, I agree. I think Pisco's got some dog shit. Lord De Laguna representing Pxie, Pisco representing Destiny. Yeah, let's see. I don't know who could host that. Can we get Lex Friedman to host that trial? Piers Morgan? He did. Pisco did put me on notice. That's true. But, you know, if I had to be pressed right now, given what we know about Destiny, let's say even the Cherry allegations are true, could I see myself ever doing a panel with Destiny again? Probably. If I thought that there was growth in contrition, but I wouldn't do it now. But I wouldn't advocate for him to be kicked off of YouTube. Now, people say, but Rob, you tried to cancel Destiny there a couple weeks ago. I saw it. You had all these people that were coming on Destiny and Pisco's show that were Democrats that were vying for a position in the DNC. And Rob, you tried to cancel them because you asked those Democrats publicly on X if they agreed with Destiny's statement about the assassination attempt of Trump. Yes, so? It's not trying to cancel. Destiny does represent a heinous political position. And that is that he seems to be getting a more prominent place in establishment Democratic Party. And he's someone that said that the worst thing that could have happened was the assassin's bullet missing Trump. And it is my belief that there are a lot of Democrats that have that belief. And so I'm just asking those politicians, do you agree with that sentiment? Much like Destiny and Destiny orbiters would be very likely to ask prominent Republicans that were streaming with, say, Nick Fuentes, hey, excuse me, prominent Republican, do you agree with Fuentes' opinion that X It's not me trying to cancel Destiny. In fact, quite to the contrary. Of us, the only person that's ever suggested canceling the other was Destiny about me. Now, in fairness, he didn't just say me, but I have the video. I responded to it years back. Destiny's at the airport doing a video, and he's talking about me, saying I'm a really good conspiracy theorist. And then he says, probably the best thing that could happen for Truth would be for all the social media people, including himself, he does admit, but talking specifically about me, to no longer have channels. So, Hector, thank you again, man. Incredibly generous for $5. Says, Rob, why don't you network to get into more debates? I'm sure Andrew can help you with that. I should, and I will to some degree. The problem is no one wants to debate me. And Andrew knows that, and Andrew will tell people that. I sort of worked myself out of most debates. Bisco would still debate me if Destiny allows him. I don't think... My guess will be if Bisco distances himself from Destiny, magically he'll be willing to talk to me more. I think Destiny heavily encouraged... Because when Destiny rage quit me, Bisco still thinks he agrees with Destiny's side of the argument, but he thought that it was a bad look for Destiny, and he also accused Destiny of not reading all the material. So Destiny went in this spurging trip about how me and Bisco must be friends from years back or some bullshit, which is just not true. How do you work yourself out of debates? By beating people to the point where they don't want to debate you. That's how. That's why I'm blacklisted from Destiny's channel, despite what he'll say. Andrew Wilson used to tell me all the time. I used to do these debate panels. Andrew was like, there's a network of people that set that up. They don't want you. How about the last time I did a panel on Wick's show? You remember that? Wick, who I like, paid by Progressive Victory. And the panel ended up being me versus basically 4 people. Elder Drazi, Brianna Wu, Econoboy, most of whom were paid by Progressive Victory. The debate was so one-sided, and I was kicking their ass so bad, that Wick had to jump in and debate me. So it was like they set up the panel to be me versus the world, and even the moderator had to jump in. So I do debates. People call in. I'm more than happy to talk to them. But I haven't gone out of my way to sort of contact people. I used to do modern day debates. I don't know why Jane from modern day debates stopped contacting me, but I used to do that quite frequently. And then most of the time, Andrew, the people, you have to understand, a lot of the people that Andrew are bringing on the Crucible to debate, like he's offered, he's like, I could get you on whatever, but that's not what I do. I don't debate that sort of like OnlyFans type stuff. And then a lot of the debates that are happening on the Crucible, most of the time when I'm on there debating, it's against the right wing. They'll bring me on to debate gay marriage, or they brought me on to debate Jim Bob on the 19th Amendment. But they don't really have the lefties that debate policy anymore, or politics. Tim Cass followed me on X the other day, so there was a debate with Pondering and someone versus Myron and Andrew Wilson, and it was on sort of Trump versus Biden. I would have wrecked. I thought Andrew did fine. I would have absolutely crushed that debate. I would have absolutely crushed it. And so I messaged like, damn, how did I not get on this panel? And as soon as I said that, Tim Cass immediately followed, Luke Beasley, Tim Cass immediately followed me. And so then I DM'd him, but I haven't heard anything back. So, but yeah, I would be open to doing more debates. The other thing is, though, like a lot of these in-person shit, man, I work 80 hours a week and I have a family. Yeah, Phil Labonte reposted me today, yeah. I'll be honest, I just saw it pop up on my feed here from X. I didn't get to read the whole message, but apparently Erudite responded to me because I offered to talk to her about this. And she said she's busy right now, but... So I'm assuming maybe that post says something to the effect of, when I'm not busy, I'd be happy to talk to you about this. So maybe I'll be talking to Erudite. I also got to reach out to people like Jake Rattlesnake. I did a little before the election with him. I'm sure he would be happy to have me back on. He seemed interested in talking to me and liked my debate style. So, yeah, if it was up to me, every show I would do would be a debate. I love it. That's why I did this. I debated in college, and one of the big reasons I stream is that I like debate. That's why the other day I did a 9-hour stream. 3.5 hours of it was talking to this guy, Neo Jackass, that was basically some first-time debater, left-winger. And everyone's like, why are you talking to this guy? It was embarrassing for him, because I love it. I love that. Even if I get my ass kicked, that's what I like doing. I like doing these debates. That, to me, is the content that I want to do the most. So if it was up to me, I would do more. But it's hard to set them up. And I don't really have connections. I sort of do my own thing. I'm not an orbiter of anyone. Andrew Wilson's been generous. Lauren Southern hit the wall more than any other e-girl in history. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that sort of stuff. Sometimes I think I'm not a prototypical streamer. I'm not someone that's on here to make friends or to get a girlfriend or to go hang out in real life events. I just don't do that shit. Never have. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I just haven't. And, it's a little bit like kayfabe, like wrestling, right? Where there's, Lauren Southern's a right-winger and Destiny's saying she's, doing terrible things, blah, 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 blah. But then they're hooking up in the background. I don't know. I have no interest in any of that shit, to be honest with you. I'm kind of just like, put myself out there as like, hey, anyone want to talk? I mean, everybody want to do a debate? That's sort of it. And some people get more shit than others. I understand it. Like, someone who gets a lot of shit, who I actually likes, BX Bullet. BX Bullet gets so much shit, and like, she's messaged me before and been like, how can you stand to go on Destiny, like, with his audience? Like, they're so shitty the way they attack you and stuff. And they've done far worse to her than they have me. I'm like, I don't know. I guess I just don't give a shit. But BX, the shit she's dealt with is crazy. Like, people threatening her children and shit, like, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, listen. I'm sure at some point, I've heard Destiny say these sorts of things before. There's probably part of Destiny that thinks, these girls were more than happy when I was hooking up with them and was giving them a boost as far as their channel. And now, now they're sort of, it's convenient to come after me. So I don't know. Maybe he's right. I don't know. I can't speak to it. But much as the people may want to point the finger at someone like Cherry and say, you knew who Destiny was when you lied down with them, I suppose then the same argument could be made to Destiny. You knew the game you were playing when you decided you were going to hook up to basically every female orbiter that was around. I don't know. It seems to me like it's okay to just have a pseudo-casual professional relationship with people. They don't need to be intimate or even best friends or anything. I don't know. Or Harvey Weinstein-esque. I've heard people say that it's like, And there's arguments to be made about Weinstein, where a lot of women probably knew what he was about, and they were like, I don't care, I'll get my spot in the sun. So they went and they hooked up with him, and then they got the good movie roles. And then once the tides turned against Harvey, they were right there to once more get the clout by being like, oh yeah, he's a monster, he did that to me too. There's probably fair criticism there. I don't know. So it's out of my pay grade. My advice would be to not be hooking up with a bunch of people. Here's my advice to you all. I think that you should find someone that you want to spend the rest of your life with and get into a monogamous relationship with them. And don't cheat. There, that's my big, what's that? Is that super advice? I think that any sort of relationship where you're saying like, oh, it's an open relationship and stuff like that, I think you're just asking for problems down the road. That doesn't mean if you're in a monogamous relationship that everything's going to end up well. It might not. But I don't know. That's what's worked for me. Um, I don't know. But I think when you're a public, particularly if you're a public person, and you're a streamer or something like that, particularly once again, it's one thing if you're me who's living paycheck to paycheck, who generously, I'm making about $1,000 a month now streaming, which is amazing. So I really appreciate it. I really do. But that's a different ballpark than you're making hundreds of thousands a month. I don't give a shit what your job is. If you're a public figure, an athlete, a politician, an entertainer, and you're making big bucks like that, you have to expect that people are going to want to be around you to get something from you. And that's not limited to non-sexual relationships. Could be that sexual relationships are looking to get something out of you as well. So I don't know. Make more money streaming games? Maybe so. I don't think I'd be good at streaming games. I don't play a lot of games. I play chess very poorly. I'm rated about 1200. I got a Switch. I play baseball on the Switch. I have Skyrim on the Switch. And now I'm very excited because my son's 4. So he's starting to get to the point where he can understand. It's because he's got a tablet. So he can play those types of like little kids games on the tablet. But like now I can play Mario Kart with my son on the Switch. He's starting to get the hang of that. So I'm excited. I got like the old Sega Genesis pack on my Switch. So I'm excited to be able to play like some of the old games. Like we started playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, where he could be Tails and I could be Sonic. And I forget how hard some of those older games were. When I was a kid, it was like, yeah, breeze through them. Now I'm an old man. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? But yeah, I don't think I'd be good at streaming games. I don't. Mario Kart streams with the chat. Maybe. I used to do back in the day, I used to do the Jackbox thing. One time I got so drunk playing Jackbox games with my audience that I passed out. And my friend in real life had to call me and was like, dude, you've been passed out on your couch for like 20 minutes on your stream. So that exists somewhere. Actually, that's probably one of the videos I had to delete because YouTube was giving me community strikes. Yeah, 4 years old, man. Hank turned 4 on January 9th. He's an amazing kid, man. I'm so lucky. If I died tomorrow, I'm one of the luckiest people that ever lived. It's so stupid because I'm such a weird person. Like, I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I'm intuitively aware that my life today, right now, is the best my life's ever been. My wife is fantastic. My son is fantastic. I get to go home from work tomorrow and hang out with my family all week. Who am I to be pissed about anything? And then, something will happen someday. Anything could happen. I could be in a car wreck, or my family could be in a car wreck, or I could get diagnosed with cancer, or I could lose my job and lose our house. And who the F knows all the terrible tragedies that could befall me. Or I could do something shitty. I could cheat my wife and ruin it all. Or who knows? But all I know is it's really good right now. That's all I know. And I don't deserve it. I never did anything special more than 99% of the people I know that I deserve this great situation. But I'll tell you this much, I've lucked into it and I'm going to take advantage of it. And I love it so much. So, I don't know what else to do with it. I got lucky. I got an awesome family and I love it. That's that. So I love coming on here and yelling at people and doing the politics stuff. But I'll be honest with you, when I started this channel, I loved my wife. I did. But having a kid's different. Having a kid helped me love my wife even more if it was possible. And then the love you have for your kid is just as much. And when it's just me and Courtney, before we had Hank, we have hobbies. You can only spend so much time with your partner. You're going to have some alone time too. And my hobby was streaming. And I read so much. I was like delving into reports and this, and that, and the other. And I still do that to some extent, but not like I was doing 3-4 years ago before Hank was here. And now it's like I work 80, 90 hours a week. Basically, all of the time I'm putting into my channel is what you see live. I'll get a vague idea of what my show is going to be about that night, and then bam, we go live. But I'm not doing the big research as much as I used to. And to be honest, I don't need streaming as much as I used to, even though I have a bigger audience now. I mean, shit, I streamed for years to 5, 6 people live if I was lucky. I get 250 people watching right now. It's an incredible accomplishment. I'm humbled, very much humbled by that. But if I lost my channel tomorrow, my life would go on. It's not the same. I ran for Congress in 2019. I would never run again. Not until Hank's older, then maybe I would have the time. But right now, I'm just having fun enjoying my family. And I enjoy this, and I like doing it. 95% of the time, I love coming on here streaming. I didn't like coming on when the assassination attempt to Trump was coming because it was depressing to see people that maybe I disagreed with, but that I thought were reasonable people all of a sudden embracing the idea of maybe assassinations were okay. That was pretty crazy. But most of the time, I really enjoy streaming. But it's, back then, in 2018, 2017, I would have been like, oh, can you imagine if I had 200 people watching me live? That'd be amazing. That would make my, month. That would be the best. And now it's like, wow, that's great. I have 250 people streaming. It's amazing. It really is. And I am humbled by it. But it's like my goals have changed. Now my goal, first and foremost, is being a good husband and father. And I understand the people that disagree with me politically think that I'm a monster, and I hear it all the time. That's fine. I love, like people would, because I have people that must be on Destiny's Reddit. I can't figure out Reddit for the fucking life of me. Whether it be Destiny's channel or anyone else's. Like, here's some of the experiences I've had on Reddit. I'll try to type out a big post and then try to repost it, and it'll say, like, you don't have enough karma to post this. I'm like, what the fuck is that? What? Okay, whatever. Then, one time someone convinced me, you know what you ought to do? Buy ad space on Reddit. And you could target the ads to, like, the Republican Reddit and just do a little video ad. Be like, hey, Normal American Show, Rob Normal, blah, blah, blah. So I did that, and I paid like $100 for these ads, and they were like, well, you can't target it to specific communities. Okay? And so then it just went out into the ether, and the majority of Reddit's like left-wing. So all I got was a bunch of shit from like Destiny fans that were like, look at the low quality of this fucking ad. This fucking idiot Rob thought that that's it. It was like, touche, okay. That's my experience with Reddit. I don't know shit about it. Seems too left-wing and fucking crazy for me. Anyways, I must have supporters that are on there, and they'll be like, oh, check out this screen cap. Go to this, go to that. Here, check out this link, this thread on Destiny's page, or this thread on some other lefty's page about you. And the shit people say about me is amazing. Like, one of the big attacks that people say all the time is like, they'll be like, oh, Rob seems like a decent guy, but you ought to hear him talk about gay people. He's a fucking bigot. So much of my right-wing audience hates the fact that I'm basically like, yeah, I don't really have a problem. I have gay marriage. I think it should, whatever. I think that the best relationship is a man and a woman getting married. But Hank's godparent's gay. He's one of my best friends. I don't give a shit. But that's the smear against me. Okay. So that rumor starts one time. That's why I say I'm hesitant to judge people like Destiny based on shit I hear. Because I see how it works for me. Now all of a sudden, Rob's this rabid fucking screaming against gay marriage every stream. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Well, Rob specifically calls for violence and blah, blah, blah. When? In fact, quite to the opposite. I had someone on X the other day that was saying, Rob's never condemning like right-wing violence. What the fuck are you talking about? Name me one other person name me a right-winger faster than me that condemned violence literally on the day of January 6th. On the day. Which was supposed to be the due date of my son being born. So I'm waiting any moment to rush to the hospital, and my wife's like, hey, can you go to the store and pick up a couple groceries? Okay. So as I'm leaving the car heat up, because it's rural Pennsylvania, it's January, I'm checking Twitter at the time, and I'm seeing, looks like there's violence occurring at the Capitol. So I did a stream on the way, in the car, on the way to get groceries. Now, yes, half the stream was saying fuck the lefties that excused violence leading up that whole summer. But I did say the people engaging in violence should be held accountable. Commiserate to what the people that held violence previously were held accountable. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say, what your actual positions are. You just get stereotyped. No, his due date was January 6th. He was 3 days late, so his birthday was January 9th. But his due date was January 6th, so you can imagine that whole... And it was a big deal also because me and my wife both had COVID in December. And back then, COVID, it was still 2020. And she was 9 months pregnant, so we didn't know what that meant. And of course, the lefty that I interacted with the most then, Dylan Burns, his producer, Mr. Geck, said that me and my wife deserved to get COVID. Why? Why did I deserve it? Why did my 9-month pregnant wife deserve to get COVID? Well, because I didn't like lockdowns? It wasn't January 6th, it was January 9th. So you missed being a base patriot. Now, my birthday's July 4th, though. So, yeah, I'm hoping it does. Dylan does a lot of work in Ukraine, reporting on the Ukraine conflict. I don't keep up with him much anymore, but I wish him well. Cody Folsom, thank you so much for $5. Says Reddit's trying to ban all posts from X because of Elon's gesture. What a joke. My birthday is July 4th. Independence Day, baby. Thanks, Cody. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. I don't know how much of this I'll cover tomorrow. I got to find some stuff to cover about the inauguration, these first executive orders and things like that. So hopefully we'll be talking about some of that. I should be streaming around 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. It might be a couple minutes before, might be a couple minutes after. So 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, I'll be streaming. Hopefully I'll be from my home computer. We can take call-ins if people want. Hopefully, maybe I'll line up a debate. Maybe I'll line up an interview with Erudite or any of the people that are involved in this particular Destiny story. Look, to recap with the Destiny story, I tried to be as fair as possible. I tend to think what he did that's been confirmed is very scummy. The allegations from Cherry and whatever are plausible, given on what we've seen. But that's not proof that that's true. Those allegations are worse. As it stands, I think that what Destiny, it seems, has confirmed that he's done is very scummy. I don't know that it's irredeemable, but I think it's shitty. And I think that I have significant questions about some of the people that claim to have known about this, that are continued to operate business relationships with Destiny as if nothing was occurring, and that are now saying, oh my gosh, I'm outraged by this, I'm considering distancing it. Why the change? To me, it seems like you would have kept on going with the ship if it meant that you weren't going to face consequences. But now that there's a public outcry, including from people in the Destiny community, which I have to say this, I do, there are people within the, I know what the common trope's going to be, and certainly it's true that a lot of people fall into this, that, listen, Destiny's community or whatever he does, they're going to defend it. And yes, there will be those people, but there are an awful lot of people I've seen that are just casual fans of that community saying this is disgusting. And this may be a reason that I decide not to view Destiny anymore. My heart goes out to Pxie, to Cherry if she's an actual victim. I also feel bad for Destiny as a victim of these leaks being out there. And I, from the bottom of my heart, hope that they could have the best possible outcomes, and that includes Destiny. He should be held accountable for the things he's done, and if he did other things that he was alleged, he should be held accountable. But I'm not wishing terrible outcomes on anyone. I'm not. So that's how I feel. So we'll see if I cover this more or if it's something to be left in the dust. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. Hopefully we'll see you around 7 p.m. tomorrow night. As always, have a good one.